stand where you're at, can't go back to where you're from. I think it's time that you head out west, gonna take you out to Oregon. It don't matter where you've been, they no matter what you're running from. Whole lot of people just like you gonna make the way to Oregon.
Hello, welcome back to Portland Metro Records Presents Off the Record. I'm your host, Ryan Moore, and today we've got with us Mr. Jonathan Pierce.
Howdy, thanks.
Welcome, yeah. Jonathan Pierce has an album out called Lesson Learned, and we're here today to talk about that and listen to a song from that album, I hope.
Sure.
Great. So did you grow up here in the Portland area, Jonathan?
I'm actually from Phoenix. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, I guess.
Oh.
And yeah, I've been up here maybe 5 years.
What was the music scene like in Mesa growing up?
Growing up, let's see. I grew up in like music, like in church doing music. And doing choir from a young age. But I would say the music scene, once I got into like playing around town, I felt like I could always describe it as like metal bands and reggae bands or sublime cover bands.
Okay.
Yeah.
So has that influenced your sound in any way at all, being a blend of gospel and sublime metal?
Yeah, that's interesting. It definitely influenced my, like, I didn't want to sound like that, I guess. But that being said, I mean, I don't want to say there's terrible musicians. There's plenty of great musicians in Arizona or Phoenix, and it took me a while to find my crew or my contemporaries that were doing the same kind of sound that I really liked, which is like groove, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all about.
I heard you. I saw that you described your music as a new sound with an old school attitude.
Yeah.
What do you think? What does that mean to you?
It's like a little tagline that I felt like was. It felt like. So I went to school for music and music production and stuff like that. So I'm like recording engineer and little techie, and so I get into kind of like building stuff and recording stuff that way, which is that new sound kind of thing. And also, I don't know, I kind of do like a folk, soul, hip hop sometimes kind of thing, which felt like a new thing to me. I don't know, but the old school attitude just felt like I've been a acoustic player and somebody that can really believes in being able to produce that live.
Yeah. Instead
of just like sequencing it. And the record is nice, but I always wanted to like step it up on the live end.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. In Portland. I think that is incredibly important as well, to be able to reproduce that stuff live.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a background as an engineer and a producer, and so does that mean that you recorded this album yourself?
I worked with a friend of mine that actually he was my first guitar teacher. And then it came back around that he started a studio, and I kind of helped in his first switching from like recording onto straight to a CD to Pro Tools rig and stuff like that. And then he started a studio called Sound Waves Recording Studio, I guess. Soundwave Recording Studio.
Is Soundwave still
still
active?
In Gilbert, Arizona, yeah.
Oh, so this was recorded in Gilbert?
Yeah, it was recorded in Gilbert, Arizona, and yeah, it was actually right before I moved up here. We cut the record. So
wonderful. Okay, so when you perform live, are you performing this music as a solo artist, or do you have an ensemble that you work with?
Well, I perform as a solo artist, pretty much generally. I have a new band that I'm working with and coming out with. It's called Pocket Square, but that's like secret, top secret.
You know, it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's coming. So look for Pocket Square.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the musicians that you had on this album, just because there was a couple names on here that really stood out. Notably, you had a cat named Kerry Campbell. Play sax on this, and he was in the band War.
Yeah.
And the Dramatics.
Yes, he's a killer sax player.
How did you meet this guy?
I had a friend that just urged me to come see this jazz night at I think it was like the Days Inn on Chaparral in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Okay.
And it was like a pretty cool little jazz night. Doc Jones and Kerry Campbell did this, and they, for whatever reason, I showed up with the guitar, and they just said, "Do you want to play?" And I said, "Well, yeah." And so they let me play a couple songs, and then Kerry kind of like chastised me about my dress. I wasn't dressed nice enough to be playing jazz, apparently. And so then he kind of gave me one of those, like, "You're not one of them, you're one of us."
Yeah.
And he kind of took me under his wing, and I kind of like became friends with this old man, and he gave me a lot of advice.
Good.
Which I soaked up. And then he was like, "Go give me a pack of cigarettes, kid." And I was like, "Yes, sir." Anything to just like hang out. And he told me this like long speech about how everything in the universe is spinning just for you, and like spinning miles a minute. And so I had him do. I tried to recreate that rant on a track on the record, which is called "Getting Older," and it starts with his saxophone lick. And he always told me, like, you got to make a lick that as soon as you hear it, you know the rest of the song, you know. And so like that's kind of like, it's like this lick that, and then I know here comes "Getting Older" or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It has to have a signature. You have to have that signature riff.
Right.
Otherwise, what do you got?
Right.
Nothing, right?
Yeah.
I suppose. The other name that stood out to me was Mel Brown. Now, Mel Brown
is here, yeah.
Yeah, there's a Mel Brown that lives here in Portland, and you said that Mel Brown played bass on this record, and I thought something's
this is
right
Mel
here.
Brown.
So tell me about Mel Brown.
I met him in Phoenix. He lives in Phoenix.
And who is he?
He's a bass player. He was the bass player and band leader for the original Arsenio Hall show.
Oh.
And then he's got Grammys, I think, with Al Jarreau and Wayman Tisdale. He's a serious killer player, and I just saw him I was doing like video production for a church, and he happens to be the musical director for this church in Gilbert as well. Okay. And I just like fell in love with this playing. I would show up early to just like watch him practice, and like he was particularly good in like promoting himself in the early days and creating like. Anyway, he inspires me, and I saw him in Guitar Center, and I asked him, can you play on the record? And I gushed over everything that he's done before. I'm like the Voce project, like the stuff that he'd done in Phoenix, and also like the movie appearances and all that stuff. And he's just a monster player. But we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get him, but we got him in, and he just like had us bobbing our heads the whole day.
That's always exciting when you can get people like that to play on an album that you care so much about. The title for the album, Lesson Learned. Yeah. Was there something about that title? What is it about that title that speaks to you? Like what is the lesson learned?
The lesson learned is like you got some experience under your belt. I mean, particularly the song "Lesson Learned" kind of came after a spat with a friend that like kind of hit me out of nowhere, and like I was like, whoa, like, I didn't expect this to come from you, or like, And that kind of like is where the song came out of. But I think Lesson Learned as an album has like, it's a big idea for me, definitely. It's like, okay, take your licks and know, lesson learned, you got your experience, but also like it's perfect to be right here.
Yeah.
And have learned your lesson or whatever. So don't take it for granted, but don't like, it's gonna hurt, but it's okay. No pain, no gain, I guess.
I mean, I know, like with some people, for example, like their parents make them take piano lessons when they're 5 or 6 years old, and they hate it, and they either, like do it for a few years, and then it clicks one day. Oh my gosh, this is what I want to do, or they just stop.
Sure.
What was your earliest influence to want to stay the course?
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't have the experience of being like a really passionate musician as a kid. Like music was like a thing that I did, and I didn't really tell people that I was a singer or like I played the sax, and it was like band nerdy kind of thing, you know. And so I sang at church. It was kind of compartmentalized, I guess, but. And I was really inspired by some of the musicians that came through our church. Like it was a kind of like a mega church for the time in like the 90s. And like we had the Mesa Symphony come in. We had, just big, huge productions that were really done well. And so I was just around audio production and backstage and singing, and that was just what I did. That was like where I grew up. And so around the time when I turned maybe like 16, it's weird because I thought of myself as a singer and a sax player, but not as like, those two don't mix. You can't do both.
Not very well.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And so like I started to pick up guitar and instruments, like playing instruments besides the sax for some reason. Just like it was weird to me, and it took a while for me to get on guitar, but I started learning Bob Dylan songs. That's been a huge like through line through all of my musical experiences, these Bob Dylan songs that I would learn, and like super simple chords, and like almost like in the style that he would steal. The way that he played it, it would be different. I would then play it different than he did, and that kind of developed my way of playing. That was like kind of almost contrary, in like, oh, it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't really sound like that. I was like, well, watch it. Like,
Okay. So you started as a singer and played sax as well, and then eventually gravitated to guitar. What else do you play?
I've been chopping up the keys and trying to become a real piano player. That's like, when I grow up, I want to be a real piano player. And my wife is a real piano player, and so she says I'm inching up there, but yeah, I play piano and guitar and do like project studio mixes and stuff like that in the basement. I've got some new songs that are bubbling up, and looking at making a new record soon.
Did you hear about the boy that told his father, he said, Dad, when I grow up, I want to become a musician, and his father said, son, you can't be both?
I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
For me, though, I didn't necessarily want to become a musician. Like, that was what I did, and I wanted to become a doctor. My mom's like a acupuncturist, and I wanted to be like her. And I like went to school, and I was doing all these anatomy classes and stuff.
To wanted to be a doctor instead of a drummer.
And then eventually she was like, you don't want to do that. You want to play music. And I was like, it was something about her saying that like kind of just like made it like a thing that I could do. Right. And then I started playing, and people were like, you're actually pretty good. And then I just bump up my confidence and started, making recordings and it's all just kind of been history, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
So you have the story of people giving you a lot of support along the way and encouraging you to become an artist.
In a way, like there's definitely people that took a while to come around, but
Sure.
yeah, my mom especially had that kind of like, you got this.
Yeah, there seems to be two camps
Right.
that people come from, or you either have a lot of support in your parents or your peers or a teacher or somebody says this is totally what you should do, or you have somebody who says there's no way you're ever going to amount to anything, and you're like, I'll show you.
I'll show you.
And then become Paul Stanley, I guess.
Exactly.
Do you have some shows coming up that you would like people to know about? Where can we see you perform?
You can see me. Frequent the Northwest Cannabis Club is where I've been playing a lot. Also, we do this live stream on Facebook, the Shark Tank sessions, which we just call our house the Shark Tank for a myriad of reasons. But we do like a songwriters night, and we do that every month. So check out my Facebook page, which is Jonathan Pierce Project, and you'll see it coming up. But we've got a few things jumbled, and we haven't set the date for this month yet.
All right. Okay. Well, Jonathan Pierce, thank you so much. It was great talking to you today. We're going to hear a song from you here in just a moment.
You got me riding so high, cloudy low. Must be the stuff that, well, my dreams are made of. 'Cause I feel your touch just like a touch from above, yeah. When I lay my head down, it's you I'm thinking of. Tell you my story in the form of this song, yeah. Hoping someday that you might sing along with these words I sing to you. Song of hope and love that's true. 'Cause all I see now for me, it's only you. It's only you, baby, now. Watch you be sleeping, peaceful and calm. Got myself thinking, well, how could this be wrong? If you let me leave, I'll delightfully decline. I'll be waiting for the day I make you mine. Tell you my story, baby, don't make it too long. Sing me your tune, I'm gonna sing along. Convincing me ain't hard to do. Just a word or two from you. 'Cause all I see now from me, it's only you. It's only you, baby, now. Oh, I know it will never come unto escape. Oh, no, no. But oh, I know I keep on playing just the same. Whoa, yeah. Call me hopeless, call me foolish, call me what you want. You can call me anything, babe, 'cause it's all true. Don't you know I'm just a fool for you? I told you once, I told you twice.
it again might not be wise. Tell me, baby, what else can I do? 'Cause I do anything for you. Here's a little lesson, though, saying about life. Say that timing is everything. Well, maybe they were right. If that's all true, then this is just how it's supposed to be. But I still can't see a future that doesn't start you and me. It's only you and me, baby. It's only you. It's only you. Only you, yeah.
Make a move and make a stand. Gonna hit the road and run. Might even change your name when you get out to Oregon. Well, get on your feet and let's make a hay in the sun. Enjoy it now 'cause the rain's coming. Gonna be some rain in Oregon. Hey!
Living, dying, ain't it strange? Life and liberty, love and pain, I can't explain. I forget my name, ain't it strange? Down on the floor, don't explode with the shout saxophone. I lay dying by my grave that was dug by mistake by a man. Bills I did pay. Here comes the rain. Won't you behave? My last day. Never mind, I won't die. Take it all and say goodbye. Good Lord, oh Lord, won't you give me one more day? Got whiskey to drink and I got music to play. When I came home to you. No, we told all the lies. Let's tell the truth. It's what we do. Twisting and turning and learning and burning up the fuse. Paranoia, ocean blue, took it all to be